In this video, I'm going to be defending the self-dosing, or self-management as it's sometimes called, of Warfarin. The first thing people usually say to me is, who are you to take your own decisions? Well, I don't like to argue back too much with rank. I like to win people over and try and be winsome. And it is a fact that in other countries, there are a lot more people doing their own self-dosing than there are in Britain. So I'm not arguing some people can't do it. It's not for everybody. But there's probably a lot more people in Britain who could self-dose who are not self-dosing. And there seems to be a general suspicion of them. When I was in hospital, several people came to me and said, I've heard of self-dosing, but I've never ever met a self-doser. How do you do it? And then we had a lovely discussion about principles and practices. They thought they were testing me, but actually I was testing them and ended up showing them a few things as well. We can all learn from each other. So people often ask me, who are you to take your own decisions? Well, look, I've been self-dosing for over 30 years. Okay? That means I'll soon get to the stage where I can't and other people will have to take over. Fine. My views have been discussed, I've discussed them with several cardiologists, including consultants over the years, and they have repeatedly authorized me to do it. Then there's the fact that research, and I'll show it to you in a few minutes, research shows that self-dosers are competent and sometimes can be more competent than medical staff. Secondly, another point, I have published 2 small articles with research data, which I hope will be interesting to you. And what matters is the quality of my evidence and reasoning, not my status and rank. Another major point is that I rarely take a decision alone. Common sense and research both agree that important decisions should usually be double-checked. So I discuss my dosing decision with my wife, and I think it's a fair question that any self-doser can be asked. Who else is involved in your decisions? So that's the real question to be asked when you're looking at competence. Who else is involved in your decisions and who could take over if need be? Now, I keep simple records. I keep notes with my reasons for any unusual decisions and the circumstances of them. Now, why do you self-dose? Well, it's downright convenient. There's, in particular, not just self-dosing, but I have my own machine. In Britain, we all use the CoaguCheck machine, and it is very, very convenient. No more special trips to the doctor, no more queues. It can be done in the holidays when traveling, and in particular, it can be done without delay when circumstances change. And the other reason for self-dosing is simple. I think I do a better job. The answer to that is prove it. Just you wait. Watch a few more videos. Now, my initial training was very, very limited. I had a mitral valve replaced at Cardiff University Hospital in 1993, and I knew I wanted to go, after the operation, I wanted to go abroad to work. So I needed to be able to self-dose myself rather than rely on local doctors. So I asked the Cardiff doctors while in hospital for advice. This is what they told me. It's easy. Yep, that's the first thing they said. It's easy. It's like a charged paintbrush, where you charge up the paintbrush and you use a bit, and then you have to top it up. And remember, it takes 2 to 3 days for a dose change to take effect. That was all my training. 2-3 minutes, job done. Wish it was always so easy. Well, subsequent training. Subsequently, I would show my notebook to doctors and discuss their comments with them. And over 20 years later, after the internet started, I studied all the relevant research articles on the subject. No, I lived abroad. Getting a blood test was easy. There were labs everywhere. I then took the result and took my own decisions about the dose, and then in 2010 purchased my own QuaguCheck home care system. Now, interestingly, it's well documented that self-dosers have the best results. The NICE guidelines, DG14, encourage self-testing and self-dosing. Here's an interesting comment or two. Even in 2014, they were saying, self-monitoring halved the number of blood clots compared with standard care. And there was no significant difference in the number of bleeds, major and minor, between self-monitoring and standard care. Wow. Now, you know that the big tension in warfarin is that if you take too little, you don't get enough protection. There's not enough protection against blood clots. Whereas if you take too much warfarin, then you end up with a greater risk with bleeds. And it's always the tension of clots and bleeds. And here it clearly says that self-monitoring halves the number of blood clots, which presumably means the protection value at the lower end of the scale is higher. Self-dosers keep well away from blood which has a low iron R. Now, that extra half protection is worth having. So why are some doctors against self-dosing? I personally don't think it's a matter of logic. There are human factors involved, and any patient who wants to self-dose has to negotiate the human factors. I think some doctors fear losing control. And it's not a matter of logic. Junior hospital doctors regarded dosing as easy, but somehow it's too difficult even for an experienced patient. I think some doctors will be saying even experienced patients, even ex-doctors, really shouldn't be doing their own self-dosing. Well, if that's so, that has to be negotiated. I think sometimes the fear of the hassle of making exceptions. If your clinic is set up in a certain way, you don't want exceptions, especially if there's a legal liability for the patient making a mistake, if the doctor doesn't check on them too often. Now, the doctor, I think in some cases, would rather stay in direct control and would rather make a mistake themselves than let the patient make a mistake. And then there are probably genuine legal fears, and in some cases, fear of not following the guidelines. Thank you very much.